Children beg almost across India, whether it is on intersections or on trains. The railways, in a report, indicated their plan to decriminalize begging. While begging must be decriminalized, somebody must be made responsible so that people don't have to beg. While there is no law prohibiting begging, many states and union territories have used certain sections of the Bombay Prevention of Beggary Act 1959 as the basis for their own laws. They allow police to arrest beggars and send them to prisons or detention centers like they did when the Commonwealth Games arrived in Delhi in 2010. Since then, the Delhi High Court has ruled for decriminalization of begging. The destitute and homeless members of nomadic communities, street performers, and migrant workers are routinely harassed and are forced to pay up if they don't want to be arrested and detained. After the Delhi High Court ruling of 2018, the centre had promised to bring a bill to decriminalize beggary and rehabilitate them. Neither the centre nor the states have shown any inclination to abolish the law. Under India's constitutional framework, it promises every person the right to live with dignity. Then, can the state criminalize begging? On the flip side, if begging is legalized, then criminal gangs come into place that abuse children. After 2 years of the Delhi High Court ruling, in September 2020, the centre rolled back on their promise, dropped the bill proposal, and stated they have no act on begging and the states are empowered to do so on their own. In 2016, Persons in Destitution Model Bill was devised and proposed to the states and union territories. It still is just a model bill in the concurrent list, with the states having the choice to accept it. The issue presently is not the future of these laws. While the law creation may take its own course, the point to ponder over is the centre and the state looking at these destitute and the poor? The responsibility for each beggar should be with the district commissioner of the place where these people are begging to make sure he can look after the needs of the destitute. These administrators are given a salary to make sure that they are able to look after society. Bureau Report, Democracy News Live, New Delhi.
Good evening, I'm Rohit Gandhi and you're watching Democracy News Live. Welcome to our show, It Matters. Today, we're going to focus on discussing the issue surrounding begging laws in India. The Delhi High Court in a matter stated that criminalizing begging is the wrong approach to deal with the underlying causes of the problem. The court ruled these laws to be violating basic fundamental rights of some of the most vulnerable people. Begging destroys the fabric of an individual right from within. With nations that do have a social security system as a parachute, many have no choice but to resort to it. But how can we as society work towards creating a more humane way of serving the unfortunate who aren't able to make it through the system or fall through the cracks? That's what we'll be discussing today. Joining us for our show today is Mr. Manoj C. Mishra. He's an advocate at the Supreme Court of India. We possibly will have Mr. Naresh Kumar also join us. He's the founder and president of an NGO generation called Yuvaa. Also joining us is Dr. Sanjeev Sahni. He's the principal director of the Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences. And joining us is Dr. Rashmi Singh. She's the special secretary cum director, Department of Social Welfare, and the director of Department of Women and Child Development. Welcome you all to the show. Let me start with you, ma'am. When you look at the challenges, surrounding begging, what's the answer? Can we not respond as a society together?
Yes, Mr. Gandhi, I do think that the societal response is needed to this huge problem. And, when the question that was raised in the film, the clipping that I just saw, so that said that, what are the bureaucrats doing? Are they getting paid for it? But I do believe that it is a societal problem where a big concerted efforts of all sections of the society, be it those within the government and those, in the social fabric, across different, verticals, and across like varied stakeholders, we need, and looking at the kind of the context of destitution and vulnerability, which leads people into a situation where we all know that there's a compromise, huge compromise to their own dignity. Now, who would really want that? So first of all, we also have to understand, I'm one of my fellow colleagues represents also behavioral science part. So, at the outset, I would feel that it's not something which anybody would want to be in the situation, and yet, being forced because of certain situations to be, uh, called as a person in begging, beggars, with. Now, the question is that in terms of the state response, is the law legislation, is that adequate, or there's much more which needs to be done?
Sure.
Because we have seen that although there's no central act, there are many states and UTs which have like are following, different laws. There are 22 states, in fact, which have like enacted laws on the prohibition of beggary. But unfortunately, earlier it was like looking at like beggary as a crime where as if the criminalization is the solution. But now, looking at a much larger gamut of complex issues involved with loss of livelihood, loss of like, yeah, maybe your own also the bodily integrity,
Sure.
in terms of like, yeah,
Sure, ma'am.
yeah.
We
So
talk. That will be a
yeah.
much larger issue around social security, and the parachute that must exist in any society. Let's come to this just right after. Let me bring in Mr. Mishra here. Mr. Mishra, these laws, first of all, how did they even come into play? I cannot imagine somebody who writes these laws and thinks that somebody who's so poor who can't defend themselves is now going to defend themselves in a court of law that why they were begging and why they were on a street begging. Who even thought of a law like this, and how did it come into play?
Mr. Gandhi, let me first congratulate you for raising this issue in this public domain. And I'm watching TV news for so many years. Nobody has raised this issue on major TV channels. So I really appreciate you for raising this issue on this public domain. Now, so far as law is concerned, see, we are still evolving as a country. This concept was never discussed at all in public domain except one or two PILs in High Court. What I feel this law is something which the state level government has to enforce as per the present norms in this federal setup. But in this scenario, it's more a sociological issue than a legal issue. See, I am really surprised to know how this begging is being criminalized. Because for Indian Penal Code, if you read the definition of any crime, you need to have two things: actus reus and mens rea. No, actus reus is guilty mind, and actus rea is guilty act. So there is nothing wrong in begging for survival. How can it be criminalized? So I attack the basic definition of beggary as defined by our legal system. Now, so far as this cartel or the group of people exploiting children in the name of beggary is concerned, it's a different issue. You'll be surprised to know there is no such law to prevent this child trafficking. Only one immoral trafficking act is there, that is to prevent prostitution. So that is something very minor or a fringe issue. Now, I really appreciate when you say how these laws are going to be enforced and on what basis it was formed. Now, we are having a legacy colonial over legal system given to us by the Britishers. It was never discussed because they are marginalized people. They are living on the street. Who will care for them except channels like you or any other public forum? The government has to be sensitized. Even I'm practicing Supreme Court. I have never seen such PIL. Perhaps I'll think over and plan for a PIL in Supreme Court because Supreme Court can take care of national issues. No, we
Right.
can't shift the burden on respective states. What about trafficking by interstate gangs? How can it be taken care of by one particular state? Only a national legislation can help us prevent this gang working all over India. Now, so far as definition of begging is concerned, if you look at the begging definition, it will again be a contradictory in the sense that in our Indian culture, this begging is called bhiksha. No? Monks asking for alms from different households.
Right, right.
So this is a tradition, which was now when I hear this word begging, the immediate picture comes is dirty people living on the street. But who will compromise their dignity and go to street for survival? Maybe some people who is being forced to do all such kind of begging. So government has to work at different levels. Law can help them in a very limited manner, but even then, government has to be sensitized. And in my personal understanding, law is to prevent this cartel, these criminal gangs, those who are operating these money making process, that has to be controlled through these legal activities. But as such, right to life, right to liberty, right to education, all these things need to be taken care of by the government only.
Absolutely. The right to life, the right to, dignity is very much part of the task of the government. At the same time, what has to be seen is when people get left out and, have to live on the fringes, then how the government takes action and comes as in charge. You're not there just to, pass orders, sitting in bureaucracy. You're supposed to take forward and say, all right, these 600 people living in my district are living on the fringes. How do I make sure that I can deliver justice to these people? This is what's done in every municipality of the world. Any decent advanced economy will look at it and say, I have a problem of homelessness. How do I resolve that? They need food, they need shelter, and it's my task to make sure that somebody who's in charge of a district or a municipality is in charge of making sure everybody is served. Let me bring in Mr. Sahni. Dr. Sahni, you're the Principal Director of the Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences. Explain to me, is there something in the whole upbringing? Is it in the culture? Where does this come from that somebody decides that they will beg on the street? And how, I sometimes wonder, how does it even allow somebody to, expect something on the street from somebody else? And why is there no social safety net around all of this?
Thank you, Mr. Gandhi. And as my friend Mishra talked about, that it's a very important topic, and thank you for getting into limelight. But I beg to differ with the panelist over there. It's not a legal issue. And I don't want to involve personally any lawyer or any court into it. It's not a government issue, because who's the government? You and I, we are the government. We have to understand the basic issue. When people do not get jobs, when people are not able to earn even a 3,000 rupees per month, why I'm using the word, taking a number of 3,000, because there's a lot of surveys happen in psychosocial studies where the people said 62% of the beggars said that if we will be able to get 3,000 rupees per month, we don't want to indulge into beggary. My dear friends, I want to make it clear. It is not by choice. It is by force. We must understand this. There is a lot of studies which I can quote you, because first of all, we don't have numbers. Like people say that as per 2011 census, over 4 lakh people are beggars in India, which I doubt. And they said that more than 81,000 people are in West Bengal, which I doubt. Because when we have probably majority of the people are staying below poverty line, and when assume that my children are dying because of a starvation, assume that my parents, I'm not able to afford them medication to them, I'm bound to beg. And that is a better thing to do, my dear friends, rather than becoming a criminal. Because many people talk about, oh, these beggars are criminals. And I also want to blame media, because I keep on reading one beggar died leaving 2 crores of rupees, leaving 20 crores of rupees. How many people, how many beggars are like that? Are we talking about a 0.0001%? And then the perception is, no, they are not beggars. They are very rich people. The second perception which Mr. Gandhi talked about is that, there is a mafia involved with it. There is, yes, but again, not that everyone is comes through mafia. It is probably the people who are outside the temples and outside the bazaars and other places, and in the rural areas there's no mafias over there. Now my question is do we justify that, you know if we are not able to provide, I liked what the public policy expert talked about as social security, because, if I know ran baseras have opened by the various state governments, may I request you, my friends, to go and visit. If you will be able to stand for 10 minutes, I will salute you. Isn't it is the duty of every individual in the society at least to take care of something? When floods happen, when comes, when any kind of other major issues come, national disasters, people get together and they help. Why can't a movement happens where we can help people, to support beggars? And I want to tell you the research about there's a lack of job satisfaction for the beggars. It says the good number of people, 71% in this profession, do not really like to beg. We must understand this, but they don't have a job opportunities. And many time people say they are from low intelligence. My dear friends, being a scientist, I want to tell you every individual born in this world has a similar kind of a brain waves as well as intellectual capabilities. But I have got an opportunity to study abroad and talk like this on the show, but those people did not get an opportunity. How many schools will give admissions to them? It is a society problem. It is our problem, and I am thankful to Mr. Gandhi taking up this
No, no,
cause.
absolutely. No. It is certainly an issue that, it's got multi facets to it. It's got the legality side of it as well. It's got the behavioral side as well, and how it has to be managed. And then at the same time, while, I agree with you that we as society need to take care of it, but at the same time, society needs a little bit of a structure. And I think what government does is it provides that structure, and it kind of creates that cohesion around that structure. And that's what you vote in a government for, making sure that, there are certain principal processes in place. For example, anywhere in the West, if you went, and let's say you fell out of a job, or tomorrow you don't have enough, you have something called a social security system. You go to Dole, you said you get $550, for example, in Canada a month, to make sure that you can provide for your basic requirements, a little shelter, little food, and your basics are taken care of. But when the society, as a government, you lack a social security structure, then you do not have that parachute in times of extreme need. And then the society can come and help you. But if your parachute becomes the society and it's loosely held, then possibly there is a challenge around it. Let me bring in let me bring in Mr. Mishra here. Mr. Mishra, and I don't know, I think we've lost Dr. Singh. Dr. Singh, you're back? Okay, sorry. I thought, because I was told by the studio that we'd lost you. Let me bring you in here. Dr. Rashmi, I understand, we're not expecting the government to be, taking care of everything. It's not possible until and unless society takes responsibility. But is there been a conversation around social security? Is it even possible in a country which is 1.3 billion people to have a social security system in place, where when somebody completely falls out of the system and has nothing to do or nothing to eat, nowhere to live, can they go and approach a system and it's provided right then and there?
Yeah, I'll tell. See, in the name of social security, it's not that today we don't have provisions. It's just that, like, yeah, there are, like, various ways in which we look at in the assistance being provided by the government in cash and kind. See, in cash, like, you have these financial assistance schemes, which are given by the government of India and the various states, which they supplement, like, the amount which normally comes, from the GOI. So that's in the name of old age pensions. Then pensions for those in disability persons and disabilities. Then you also have like pension for the widows. Say in a place like Delhi, those pensions are around 2,500 to even 3,000. And then apart from like these pensions which are financial, like monthly in nature, there are like certain things which are like given one time, like loss of a bread earner. So in the family where there's a loss of a bread earner, there's a national family benefit scheme where rupees 30,000 is given. Now in kind, like you have like schemes like the PDS, the for those who need grain for food security. So now you have the Food Security Act, under which like you have much larger net of people who can have subsidized ration. Then you have like for children like midday meal, the supplementary nutrition which is provided by the ICDS. Then there are like shelters for the homeless. So most of the urban local bodies, they are supposed to run these shelter for the homeless. And in places like Delhi, again, like I have seen personally that over the years, there've been a huge increase in the numbers, and even in the standards, because there are certain benchmarks, that it's not just the shelter, because over the period we saw that the healthcare, the need for like even okay 2 square meals a day. So those things like kept getting added on to the basic facility of like just providing a roof over people's head. And there was a time when it was being done only for winter, so it used to be like night shelter for the winters. And now you'd find that around the year, we have these like shelters running. And when as a part of Mission Convergence, Delhi government, like long time back, so we had like started this, and also the engagement with the civil society organizations who are invariably like associated with running of these shelters. Then you of course like in the social security, I'd also put the net of health cover, like free you have these free clinics. So that's another kind of cover.
Dr. Rashmi, I agree.
So
There are a tremendous amount of schemes, but accessing those is, and as you may very well be aware, is absolutely a challenge. There isn't, when you're so far on the fringes, it's very difficult. You barely have any education. It's very, very difficult to access any of this. And creating a nodal body in each place where these people are and making them responsible possibly is the way out. Let me bring in Mr. Naresh Kumar. I'm sorry, he disconnected, but his connection has come back. He runs an NGO called Generation Yuvaa. Mr. Naresh Kumar, can you shed a little light in terms of when you've been working with the homeless and people who are living out in the fringes there? What is your takeaway, and what needs to be done first to be able to begin even settling this problem?
From past 10 years, we are working with closely working with the begging families, sir. I do work with for the upliftment of child beggars actually. So right now I have 185 children with my shelter home. So major thing is it's a lots of circumstances are there in this. It's not a single agenda where they came out of poverty, they came out of some other reasons like that. There are number of issues in this. There are families we have very closely seen. Maybe family is in poverty, but few families are taken up that as a good thing, and they started taking children for rental from Chhattisgarh tribe, and they're getting here and making them do circus, training them. There are few communities where they're bringing up children like that. And the other way, there are few families who started producing more children in their family, like 10 members, 8 children, or 10 children, and they're going for the beggings, and they're taking as profession. And we have seen children from the past 13 years, they have grown up and they now become the elders, and they are again into begging. And their families who are by poverty and other issues, husband leaving them, parents leaving them, and some mental conditions, other things, they're coming with the children and they're coming out. So all these issues at JJ Act, children are treated very well and they're being produced before the Juvenile Justice Board, and they're given shelters in the homes, and other things are happening. But when compared to the elder beggars, there must be differential homes has to be set up, and these people has to be motivated. They have to be tuned towards the shelter homes, because there was no channel between them and the shelter home. They has to be more motivated. They has to be guided to those homes. That slack is missing because even they don't know how to make an Aadhaar card. They don't know how to get anything of what they required. They come to us. Even if they have some problem, they're coming to our shelter homes. We are making them stay with for 3 or 4 days. But the elder beggars, most of them, they want an independent life. That's their right. They don't want to stay in the closed premises or homes. So we always left them free. We always deal with them, talk to them, we go with them. But definitely, there is criminalizing this law is not a good thing. It's not needed actually because it is another angle part actually. Juvenile justice has to be made more stronger because the next generations has to be saved. Whether the parent send the child or someone else in the next generations has to be stopped because if once they are stopped, the begging can be stopped from that family. At least if really they are taking as profession.
Sure.
Here in Vishakhapatnam, we have seen lots of communities. They are migrating families, and they taken up begging as the profession in the entire families. So they're moving from Vishakhapatnam to Rajahmundry or Rajahmundry to some other places, but the entire family they are fixed for begging. So we have motivated them not to go for begging, but still when they change the place, they take the children, they go by themselves, and there are many people like collecting old clothes and trading them from here to Calcutta in a lot of bundles. So begging is going in other things also. We find it in a different circumstances it has to be
Sure.
treated.
No, absolutely. You're making a very good point, Mr. Naresh Kumar. And I think the idea for all of us to be talking about it here is today to kind of begin isolating. Certainly, the criminalization law in itself needs to be reversed. The Delhi High Court very aptly pointed out that there is an issue around it and we need to be handling it. But beyond that, processes around how we'll handle people on fringes, what needs to be done as a society for people to volunteer and reach out and bring changes. Certainly understanding where these people come from, finger pointing, looking at them as criminals, possibly a wrong way of dealing with it, and certainly looking at our own cultural ethos. I want to thank you, Mr. Mishra, Mr. Kumar, Dr. Sahni, Dr. Singh for joining me for the show. I think the idea is to begin the ball, get the ball rolling in the beginning, and that's when we can begin dealing with an issue like this. Begging is certainly a challenge for any society, and what has to be done is dealing with issues like this head on. Society has responsibility, but so does government, so does the legal system, and they all need to work for the underprivileged rather than working against them, treating them as criminals. That's certainly something no society should do. Thanks for watching. Good night and good luck.